here's the thing. So for being prolific, this can work for bands, this can work for visual artists, having a yes and no column. It's really easy to have a ton of yeses. I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do that, blah, blah, blah. But like the more robust of a no column you have, the more vibrant those yeses become. Like, I am not a Motown band. I am not a bass music DJ. I am not a singer-songwriter. Okay, now that I know I'm not doing that, that saves me a lot of time in barking up the wrong trees. You know, I know I'm not a Max for Live person. That does not excite me at all. And even like when Ableton is paying me to do a clinic, if somebody talks about Max for Live, I'm just like, that's part of being a good teacher is like, hey, you know what? That's not my thing. Yeah. And the one little thing I use for Max for Live is the thing that came with the program, and it's called LFO, and I use it, you know, that's it. So I think it's about, like the yes and no column. And I have, like, when I really got clear on what my no column was, the yeses became so much more vibrant and they felt within reach. Yeah. And that's how you get the snowball, you know?
What's up, man? Good to see you.
Good to see you, brother.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how plur are you?
I'm a 9-2 dad on a Saturday plur.
Yeah. Yeah, man. We're in your studio. We're in this beautiful home of yours.
Yeah.
Loving it. Hanging out with your wife and your kid, your beautiful daughter. It's good to be with you. Been trying to make this happen for a while. I'm excited to help tell your story and dig in.
Definitely. We go way back.
We do.
We got a lot of stories.
Yeah. I mean, just to tell that story, like we got introduced through a mutual friend, Josh Smith.
Dallas,
Texas, represent. And, you know, I had started the label, and I think we were very much still trying to find our direction and musical identity. And he suggested your music, and I checked it out. And I think for me, always with Gravitas, I was excited about people that were not just playing electronic music, but multi-instrumentalists. Which,
hybrid.
Yeah, which I thought, you know, bands like Beats Antique were always really inspiring to me. So
great,
put out some of your music and just build that relationship. And you've been there almost since day one with us.
Since day one. And actually, before I forget, I have a really funny Beats Antique story.
Let's do it.
Anytime I see David Satori, we always joke. It's usually after like a couple cocktails, he'll say, remember when I used to open for you? And so the story is, it was 2004. I was in my first touring band, which was a 10-piece mambo Latin band called Cabaret Diosa. He played in like a 9-piece Afrobeat band. And at the Independent in San Francisco, his band opened up for my band. Nice. And that's so long before either of us were making beats, he was opening for me.
That's awesome. That's a great story.
Yeah.
Well, I love that. Well, and so, I mean, yeah, like you had such a career, man. Where do we even begin? Like, I mean, I guess try to start just a little bit at the beginning. How did you, I mean, obviously you've been playing music forever, but like, is there anything that jumps out from you of like the start of your career?
This right here.
Okay.
So I posted this on my Facebook page the other day. This is a cassette. My band was called Naked Sam. The name of the EP is Warm Like the Moon. This is the first thing I ever produced.
Nice.
And I produced this on a Tascam 4-track recorder that my mom got me. I learned how to do overdubs and bouncing, you know, because you ran out of tracks. Yeah. And so and we would then go to the music store and buy blank tapes. And then we literally do the 2 tapes in the boombox. And we had our master and we had our dupes. And we'd sell these out of the trunk of my car on the lot when we would play shows. And at the time, we were like barely old enough to drive. I think I was the only one that had a license in a car in the band. And so most of the time we were playing like church basements or like high school auditoriums. But that was kind of like the beginning of it. And I think more than any like one particular player or genre that blew my mind, I've just always like been super intrigued by guitarists, whether it's Eddie Van Halen, or then like by high school, my jazz teacher hit me to people like George Benson and Wes Montgomery who were doing the big jazz box thing. I loved like shoegaze music because I thought it was really interesting with the way they use pedals. And then I got way into like bluegrass and classical and had like kind of a purist phase, and then like played in jam bands and did the Latin thing. And so for me, actually, with what I do is Cloudchord now, and what I used to do is D.V.S. It's like, it's really just a capstone of like all the guitar influences that I've had over the years, you know, and I don't have one particular like God. I've had people that have influenced me greatly, but it's just like, I love Bela Fleck too, you know, and he doesn't even play guitar.
That's great. Yeah. I mean, I think, what you said about Cloudchord and D.V.S. being in capstone, I think that's such a metaphor for life. Like we're always building on our previous work. Right. And the hard part is sort of, especially as a musician, reinventing yourself and finding that next thing and figuring out how can you leverage, like I've done this in my business and my like sort of entrepreneurs, how can I leverage what I've created or learned in these last chapters of my life and then pull that into something new that's still interesting and inspiring. So it seems like you've been really able to do that with your career again and again and again.
Yeah. I think that's actually, you know, like one of the beauties of experience and age is it gives you wisdom.
Yeah.
And that it's like when you see an interview with somebody like Quincy Jones and like he could still do interviews and tell new stories.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because he has that many stories.
Yeah.
And to me, like that's kind of the fascinating part of evolving into life is you have more stories and you have a reservoir of knowledge and wisdom and lessons, you know?
Yeah. Love that. Yeah. I mean, yeah, Quincy Jones. I mean, for us, like our path have, you know, to some extent diverged a little bit as you were D.V.S. in your project. And then we did your, Gravitas did a record with you, Cloudchord, when you created that called Imprint. And then shortly thereafter, you sort of took some time to sort of really cook and build that project. And then signed with Chillhop and did some records with them. Tell me about that piece, because I think that was a really pivotal moment in your career, and we've seen like so many great things happen from that.
Yeah. So just to be clear on what you said, like we first started working together when I did D.V.S. And so there's a bunch of D.V.S. stuff on Gravitas, original albums and remixes. And then when I rebranded as Cloudchord, which is a whole nother story, probably a podcast in and of itself called Branding.
Branding, the podcast.
Then the first record that I did as Cloudchord in 2017 was called Imprint. And you were a great help on that. And that almost is more of a post-D.V.S. record than a Cloudchord record. It's like really on the borders.
Yeah.
And it's because I was still writing for the performance avenue in life, because growing up as a guitarist, that's kind of what you do, you know, like when I was young, like nobody talked about publishing. It was about like gigs and how to get a record deal. And to me, like the people who did film scoring were boring. They weren't nearly as cool as Eddie Van Halen or exciting for a 13-year-old. You know, I want to see like, you know, right? I don't care about like, you know?
Yeah.
So I had always, in my entire life, even throughout college, always had written for the performance outlets. Bluegrass, jazz, jam bands, Latin, everything, rock and roll. I even had a klezmer duo for a while, believe it or not. And I'm not even Jewish. But then I kind of had this hit of like, okay, so this is something I've been doing my whole life, writing for the stage. What happens if I don't write for the stage? It doesn't mean I have to do cinematic Hollywood scores. There's plenty of music out there that it isn't written for the stage that is closer to who I am.
Yeah.
And I looked back at my era in D.V.S. and I took a real good emotional inventory of the tunes that had really, really touched people based on fan feedback.
Yeah.
You know, comments, DMs, talking to people at the shows. And a lot of times it wasn't the songs that I was playing live. People would say, oh, I wish you had played, you know, Bending Bloom or Bright Beginning, which are like two of the more chill ones, things like that. And so I took an inventory and I was like, okay, so when I'm not even trying to do what I've always done, these are the things that are really touching people. And I also took a step back at like, what do I naturally excel at? And the answer, and I thought of a specific moment in my 20s when I was playing a lot of bluegrass, and I was at a jam, and most of bluegrass is like really fast, that kind of stuff. And somebody called a waltz. It was really slow, like. And I remember there like being 7 players in the circle that passed on the solo because it was too slow and pretty melodic, and they didn't know what to do with it. So, wow. And it came to me, and I was like, "Give me like 7 minutes, because I could just,
let me go."
I was like, I just had ideas for days, and that moment always stuck with me. Of like, that's kind of who I am. I have an easy time writing wide open, beautiful melodic stuff. So based on like the emotional inventory that I took from D.V.S. and that specific memory, I decided to double down on the pretty melodic stuff and still have beats, and still be compared to ambient music. I guess it's still dance music. It's all relative, right? But that's the kind of capstone of that experience, is taking all those memories and those inventories and realizing, okay, I'm not going to write for the stage. I'm going to put an emphasis on beautiful melodic stuff that really touches people's souls. And so, but I still kind of wanted it to have a little bit of funk to it, And so right at the time I had met Luke from Soul Food Horns, and we had some mutual friends, and we did Koi Pond 2, and we kind of just did it for ourselves. And then somebody introduced me to somebody affiliated with a Chillhop label, which is in Rotterdam, Netherlands. And I submitted it to them with no expectations, and they loved it, and they took it up, and honestly, it changed my life. It changed like all my streaming algorithms. It changed all like the similar artists on Spotify. And then instantly I was like catapulted into this entirely new pool or community of producers that I kind of didn't even know existed before that time.
Yeah.
And they were all doing the stuff that I was doing. And then I just kind of ran with it after
Love that.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the huge takeaway for me, which I haven't heard you say that before in that way, is the emotional inventory, which is kind of what we were saying, is like, we get these chapters in our lives and we get an opportunity to say like, what do I want to do next?
Right.
We don't get that many in our lives. So to take a long
start.
look and see, really we could do it all the time if we wanted, but it's rare. And there is sort of these moments where you get them and say like,
it's whether you have the bandwidth to truly do it.
Yeah.
Or the time.
Yeah. Even like in some cases, like there was a time where my wife sort of took a step back from working and got trained to be a yoga teacher. And there was like this, like these couple weeks window where she really took time to like reflect. And I think that's a really special time. And so when we're given that, I think it's really important to like what you say, take that emotional inventory and be like, what's worked? What have, really listened to the universe and that's amazing, man. What a great thing. And so, yeah, it was, and for me as Gravitas, like all we've ever wanted is to see the artist succeed, and to see all of a sudden things really take off for you is like, wow, yes, like he's going for it. And at that same time too, like sometimes it is a little bit of right time, right place, where all of a sudden Spotify and these YouTube radios and their YouTube channel, like everything kind of hitting at once, like, wow. And to go with that wave, but doing it organically of who you truly were, right? You're not just jumping on the trap wave because you wanted to be a part of that scene. It's like,
damn, son, where'd you find this?
Yeah, exactly. So I love that, man. That's so cool. And so now I feel like you're maybe not in that world as, you are, but you're also kind of spreading your wings and kind of returning somewhat to your roots and being able to be even more fully expressed across all genres and styles.
Yeah. It's a little bit of a like Phoenix rising from the ashes kind of situation.
Yeah.
That now that I can go back to at times writing for the stage, but not feel trapped by it.
Yeah.
And still have things where I have no intention of performing that live, and they can be on the same EP.
That's great. And like really, I feel like you have like ultimate freedom to just play and write.
Yeah. And I think it took me a while, and I've gotten better at being on stage at 11 p.m. on a Friday night in a club full of people that want to dance and they're smoking and drinking, blah, blah, blah. being able to like deliver them enough energy to where like it was like a
yeah,
but still be my voice and still be the beautiful melodic stuff.
Yeah.
And it's definitely a tightrope balance.
Yeah.
But you know, I guess once you do the tightrope enough, you learn how to balance it.
Yeah.
And you get good at it.
Well, and I'll play some of the B-roll from you just recently opened up for Ott. And so as you, Random Rap, and then Ott. And I thought you carried the room great. I mean, it was a rainy night, and so we moved it inside the control room at Empire in Austin. But even without that, like you had moments where you like jumped down off stage.
Right,
so
right.
You have a bag of tricks. You know how to perform, and I also think like there is a return to dynamics. Maybe this is more in our age group or whatnot, but I think people are ready for that. And like,
yes,
especially, and you know how to play the room and kind of like vibe off of that. So that was cool. And I think more people need to see that. It's sort of like, if it's always just like full on 100% LED crazy energy, then everyone thinks that's like what we have to do on stage. But if you're bringing the like, wow, that worked really well.
Right.
You know, especially in the electronic world. I think in a band setting, people are more set to have these dynamic moments. But
right.
So I was really excited to see how well that worked because I hadn't seen you play in a while.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, now I generally speaking, I compose my sets so that they're kind of a big crescendo. And I will literally sometimes start a set that's just like, you can still hear chattering. People are like, is he sound checking or is this the beginning of the show? You know, and then I'll do some stuff where we get like, that's the loop. And then I'll go over the top of it. And then it'll go, and then I'll always like work it out to where it's about to go into the first tune. You know, It's like the same key or whatever, and then it bumps. You know, and then as you saw, I also like to end the show with guitar. It's like bring it back to where it began, and that's something I've had real good luck with. Is just like I've been in rooms of like 750,000 people, and if you know how to command them and give them instructions, and it's not too long of a period of time that you expect them to be quiet, you can like really command them. And so I did every set last year, I ended with solo guitar and I ended at the front of the stage. And it was really cool because it's like after giving them beats for an hour to come back to just like a simple like, oh, that's very clearly, you know, he's literally playing one note right now. You know, it's a very special thing. And then you end and you're like,
yeah. Absolutely. And I think too, especially in the electronic setting, is like you're letting the instrument do some of the work and heavy lifting and it's like, you know, we're almost programmed to like look at the stage and, you know, there's just this like consistency. And so to pull that away again with the dynamics, it's like, wow, like you really did pull people's attention. I love that. Yeah. And so let's talk about the Biscuits and kind of what's going on there and how that has tied in. Like that's been you've known those guys for a while and now you're helping them do some songwriting and it started with engineering, right? You're helping them do some studio engineering.
Yeah. So for those of you at home following along, you're referring to the jam band, the Disco Biscuits. Tier 2A jam band. I'm a professional jam band tier. They're going to love I said that. That's an ongoing joke of ours. It's like, what tier jam band are you? It's all based on ticket sales.
Yeah.
So my joke with them is Cloudchord is a 1F jam band. 1 because I have more streams than almost every jam band, but F because I can't really sell as many tickets as the rest of them. So I knew all those guys from 10 years ago when I was D.V.S. and living in Brooklyn. And I opened or played shows with all of their side projects. So I met all of them individually outside the band. And in one way or another, I've played their festival Camp Bisco 4 or 5 times. So they were doing in 2019, they had decided what they called Set Break is Over, which means like they were coming back. They had renewed, reinvigorated energy for the band. They had kind of been on autopilot for about a decade where they were essentially a legacy jam band. They had been around for 20 years at that point. They knew it worked and it was on auto drive, right? and they weren't writing any new material. And then there was this reinvigorated energy of things they wanted to go back and double down on. One was new material, and the other was like trying out a bunch of new things live that incorporate electronics. And so they have a side project called Tractor Beam, which is all instrumental. Initially, it was just like the Biscuits without microphones is how they referred to it. And it was like a way that they could play their own late nights and stuff like that, without get around the radius clause and all that kind of stuff. But they wanted to do a thing where they played a Tractor Beam segment every night. And so it was like, instead of it like being Tractor Beam late night, every night in the second set, they did a Tractor Beam bit.
Got it.
And they had all of these lofty goals for things that they wanted to do with Ableton inside of it. And so really their vision was as a live band, they wanted to try to authentically recreate portions of famous DJ mixes. So like we had a Carl Craig set from Ultra in like 2016. And it was like, they were going to try to do like timestamps, like 25 minutes to 50 minutes, like that part of the mix. They wanted to try to authentically recreate to the best of their ability as a band. Pretty cool, right? Pretty cool vision.
Nice.
But they had a lot of questions, like as to like how to pull that off and just not sound like a jam band hacking at it. So that's a long answer for like, that was the original idea, is they knew that I worked with live instruments so I could speak that language, but that I also did the Ableton stuff so that I could really answer a lot of questions and do some consulting on that end. So 2019 into 2020, to basically right when the pandemic started, I was like on call for them when they were on the road and they were trying out these new things. And there was like, I think about 10 of them that we worked out together. And it was even everything from me arranging vocal cues in their playback of like, okay, now you got to go to the square wave patch because we're coming to this part that's a B minor. Like because there's a lot of moving parts to authentically recreate a DJ set. So that was the deal. And then they were about to have like their best year. And then 2020 happened, and we all know what happened in 2020.
Yeah.
So, but we all stayed in touch because we like working together. And then 2 summers ago, I just went and visited them in their homes in Philly just as a friend. But I had an idea. I was like, let's just go in the studio, because we've never actually done that. I've just consulted you with Ableton. So let's go in the studio and let's just see what happens. And so Alan, their drummer, lives in Denver, so I knew he wouldn't be there. So I basically came into that situation as their drummer, and I made like 40 house beats in preparation for this session. And I was like, you guys go and I'll just be the drummer and I'll be your engineer. And so they just played free open for like 3 hours, and I was their DJ / their engineer. And we had a great time. And then like one thing led to another, and it kind of snowballed. And then we released 3 instrumentals last year, and they were the first songs that they had released since like 2010 or something like that. 10 years, so maybe 2013. And so it's really snowballed since then. And now there's a 14-song album that we're working on that's about 80% complete. So it essentially started as their Ableton tech.
Nice.
Or their Ableton consultant. Yeah. Because I wasn't always on the road. And then turned into their producer. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
What I guess what lessons have you learned along the way? Like what has been the biggest surprise or thing that you didn't expect to come from that?
I think that, part of the thing that we talked about with like the transition of me not writing for the stage is I also wanted to stop overthinking things. Like I got fast enough and skilled enough at mixing and mastering that like Koi Pond 2, I made that whole album in like 4 weeks.
Wow.
So, but that's skill married with me refusing to overthink.
Okay.
And so I have a little bit in common like with like the Mad Libs of the world, that I like raw beats that are kind of, sometimes if you leave it vulnerable and raw and imperfect, it like really jumps off the needle a little bit harder than something that you've manicured for 3.5 years, right? And I think the fans can actually intuitively feel that in their heart a lot of times, right? So I'm very much currently of that world and that philosophy of like, it's done.
Work fast.
Done.
Call it done. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
like
it's just music. It's not precious, right?
Totally. Like I have probably 40 tunes on DSPs that inside Ableton, it's like under 20 tracks.
Yeah.
You know, because it was done. Like, sure, I could have turned it into a symphony, but that's not the goal there. My point, though, is that they're kind of on the other side for two reasons. One, because they haven't recorded music in so long that they're a little more precious about it. And as their producer, I need to get out of the way and respect that.
Yeah.
And two, they are used to the stimulation and feedback loop of lasers, light show, roaring audience, playing things way faster than you'd play them in the studio.
Right.
Energy, live energy. So you marry those two, and it's very different than the Cloudchord or Madlib raw approach. So that's been a real interesting lesson for me as a producer, is how to instill some of these things upon them of like, guys, it's not going to get any better at this point. We're just creating a remix, which I've said to them many times.
I like that.
You know, now we're working on the remix, guys. Like the tune's already done. But like, so instilling and encouraging them to not overthink things, but then also getting out of the way as a producer and kind of being an open, empty vessel to think like, okay, so maybe they are right for this situation, and maybe the tune isn't done. Because there have been times where I was like, it's done. And then 4 generations later, that was actually really the one.
Yeah.
You know, and we just had to see it through. And by the end of the 3rd generation, I was like, these fucking guys.
Can we just call it done?
Can we just call it done? But we saw it through, and it was like, wow, that was really rewarding. So
makes sense. I mean, that's a very organic, natural relationship that has evolved. Do you think you would like to do more of that for other artists?
For other artists?
Yeah.
If it came up organically like that, I don't aspire to be a Rick Rubin or a Quincy in that, like, I'm always producing other people, because clearly I have my own thing. And honestly, like, at the end of the day, I'm totally happy to just sit home and play guitar all day. Some days I don't even turn on the computer, and I just like play this all day, because that's like my original love. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So to me, it would have to be like inspiring and organic to do. And I'm sure it'll happen at some point.
Yeah. Like, it sounds like it is the right relationship with the right people. You've earned their trust. Like, you can't just jump into that situation with a band and start to disrupt things. You gotta really earn that trust.
Right. Yeah. A trust and commitment and endurance.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably other producers that would have quit on them, and there's probably other bands that would have quit on me.
Let's go back to the D.V.S. name. I think, you said it could be a whole podcast. I don't think we have to do that, but that was a big transition for you, right?
Sure.
You had this name that was your initials, Derek Van Scoten. It had dots. It was D.V.S.
Asterisk. What could go wrong?
Yeah, no problem there. For us as the label, some of your name even caused problems with like databases.
Sure.
Like you couldn't put that character in.
And it wasn't all of them. It was just some of them.
Yeah.
Which kind of made it worse.
So, but I love the new name. I think that it's, for how challenging the old one was, this one's so good, because it really brings, and that's not an easy thing to do these days, to find a word that isn't taken, that you can find on socials and get a domain for, and like that has any semblance of a meaning or concept behind it. So
totally. I think about that a lot in the day of the internet. Like, you couldn't start a band called Toto right now.
No.
You know what I mean? Or whatever. You know, I think of so many like bands from the 60s, 70s, and 80s that like would struggle like crazy for SEO right now. Yeah. But it was a different time.
The band?
The band, right, exactly. Exactly.
Exactly. Funny. So I guess what do you have any advice for people?
Yeah,
like how to pick a brand that works for you. Like, was there anything that you learned along that way?
Yeah. So what I did, it was one of the very few times in life where I was ultra patient with the whole thing, because like you said, you don't get that many do-overs.
Yeah.
Like, you could do it as much as you want, but like it wears out its welcome.
Yeah.
Right. So I knew I was going to do this for all of 2015, which was, and this is the classic thing, 2015 was by far the best year of D.V.S. ever. And I didn't give a fuck about it. Like, I got to play LIB, like I got to play all these great festivals, and like I had great sets, tents full of people, and I was just like phoning it in, playing guitar solos on top of other people's disco tracks. Did not care at all.
Oh man,
probably why I did.
That might be the lesson. That might be the lesson.
Exactly. What I did is I really took my time, and I had a sticky note on my phone for about a year. And anytime I had a good name, I put it on this one note. And I was well into the hundreds for ideas. And so I told myself towards the end of the year that what I was going to do is I was going to try to pick a name. And I wasn't trying to book any more shows after a certain point. And I think Art Outside was actually my last show.
Yeah.
So, but it's funny, nobody there except maybe like you and Cole knew that it was my last show and as D.V.S. But I knew for sure, you know. And it's so fitting that, remember, it got rained out.
That was a heck of a storm.
Halfway through my set, it was like, done, and we're done. I was like, this is so...
and we're done.
This is highly poetic right now. Like, nature came in and just
that was a scary storm. It was a scary moment there for a second. Yeah.
It was. So, but what I did is, I, did the whole gamut of all kinds of names. One time I read all of my unused names to a couple friends backstage, and it literally took me like 4 minutes to get through all the names. Not that value matters, but just to show you like how much I was thinking about this and throwing things against the wall and being patient, right? But my rule was it can't be taken anywhere. Anywhere that matters. So like there was a couple that I almost went with Cloud Color, and it was taken on Twitter. And I was like, I can't be Cloud Color Music on Twitter. That defeats the whole freaking purpose, right? So that was a big thing. It's like it can't be taken in any of the places that it mattered, because I think the biggest thing as a name is you want it to be easily remembered. Ideally, it's poetically describing your name. Yeah. Ideally. And there needs to be so little competition with your name that people can stumble upon you. And those are all the things, other than D.V.S. being easy to remember. Like, I literally heard hundreds of times where people, we saw you at such and such, we loved your music, and we couldn't find your music. Oh, man.
Yeah.
What a freaking nightmare.
Nightmare.
Yeah. But now, as Cloudchord, I'll meet people who are like, oh, you're Cloudchord? I've heard of you. Like, I stumbled upon your thing from blah, blah, blah. Like, this happened at South by Southwest like half a dozen times.
Nice.
Like, some random cats came up to me on the street like, yo, man, you're Cloudchord, right? I follow your Instagram. Yeah. And I was like, killer.
Yeah.
And that's probably because they stumbled upon me from somewhere else. And there weren't any other Cloudchords.
Yeah. I mean, it's unfortunate, but it's also just the facts of the world we live in and the digital age of how much that matters.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I've experienced that with my own last name. Like, it's Breda.
Right.
People call me Breed. And I've kind of not given up completely on correcting people, but it's challenging, and people don't know how to spell it. And so it's like, it is a real big lesson. I think, there's namechecker.com. I think it's missing some vowels, but you can see, it'll show you like where all it's available. And so,
I definitely did that.
Yeah. Spend some time with it. Yeah. That's amazing. And yeah, the previous name D.V.S. there were so many challenges. Plus Derek Vincent Smith.
Right.
That was part of the joke.
Like, they in the business world, they talk about indirect and direct competition. Yeah. So direct is like people that are literally in the same field as you. So for me, direct competition would be other music names. Indirect competitions would be a science brand. So the problem with D.V.S. is that there was both. There was direct competition, and that there was a bunch of bands that named D.V.S. and there was like 4 rappers named
D.V.S.
Yeah. And so like the biggest thing was there was a British rapper named D.V.S. who was crushing YouTube. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to break through here with this name, because he just runs the show.
Yeah.
And even after that, then you get indirect competition of like digital video systems and all these other brands.
The shoe band.
The shoes and people always thought it was Pretty Lights. I was like, honestly, he's like the least of my worries. You know?
That'd be great.
That would be great if that was it.
Yeah, I'm Pretty Light adjacent. Yeah.
Right.
Oh man.
So, but that was like, it was kind of a perfect storm of badness with D.V.S. is that there was incredible amount of both direct and indirect competition. And I was like, even if I have a Miley Cyrus feature and I'm number one on Spotify, I'm still gonna have issues.
Yeah.
You know?
That's a good way to play it out. Like if you're struggling with something like that, you got to take it to that like foregone conclusion and be like, okay, even if the best thing in the world happened, this problem would still be a problem.
Right.
So might as well get ahead of it.
Yeah. And the thing is, I really wanted to release music under my name. If I was just like a producer behind the scenes, it had not been nearly as important, you know, because there's lots of producers that like Flood is one, for example, that works in the rock world. Like he would have, if he wants to release music as Flood, he's going to have some issues. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you landed on Cloudchord. I think it's a great name. I think there's some great lessons there. I wanted to talk about a little bit too about your journey with Ableton, because you've been such a part of that community and they've obviously supported you. And I think it is, you're Ableton-certified, right? Mm-hmm. And it's obviously probably like next to your guitar, your primary tool in the studio. Yep. And I feel like you've got a level of mastery of it that many don't. Right. I don't know. I just like what. Speaking of. Yeah. Hold that thought. Hold the phone.
Live and direct from Berlin.
Uh-oh.
This is my Ableton certification.
Oh, nice. Nice. Long time coming, huh? There you go.
There it is.
Very cool. Nice, man.
Certified for 10 and 11. Eventually it'll be 12 and 13 and 14.
You have to recertify?
You have to recertify.
Got it.
So that's a cool thing about that is that you can't just be one and done.
Yeah.
Because music technology is always evolving.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's been an amazing journey too, in a lot of ways, for confidence and for realness with myself, of like continuing to dig in as a producer and not just like resting on my laurels.
Yeah.
You know, like, okay, I've been successful with Chillhop, I'm just going to do that because it's easy and I know how to do it. And I have basically a template at this point. Like, I don't think that way.
Well, and I guess inside the question is, it's Ableton Live. And it's really, I mean, I think when they drew it up and when they envisioned it, it was for someone like you. Like, it's supposed to be the full experience of all instruments running through it and all of that. It's not just a beat making software. Right. Which up until that point, like you had Pro Tools, but you weren't probably going to take that on stage.
You weren't.
And now to see what people have done with Ableton, I know that to us, it feels common, but without Ableton, like think of where we would be as a culture. Like it has opened up so many doors. And so I love that they've been a community that have supported you. And then it's something like you've really found, at this point, it's an instrument that gets out of the way and allows you to actually create fully on the stage and in the studio. Right.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
If someone looks at your catalog right now, you're prolific. Mm-hmm. You're writing and releasing a lot of music. And creatives or new producers, like they get gear lust, they get excited. Obviously, you've got a ton of gear, but it's like master that one thing. Get really good at your DAW. Get really good at your instrument. Get really good at those fundamentals. And then the creativity really starts to flow inside of that. Right. And I think I think there's some patience there too, right? Yeah. You can't rush that.
Yeah. And you know what I do too with like new gear? It's not set up right now, but it's usually over in that corner. I set up a table and I call it my R&D table. Okay. And so if I'm not on the road on the weekends, I don't produce on the weekends. All I do is R&D. Okay. And so like if I get a new pedal, like the weekend is dedicated for me getting to learn that pedal. Nice. And like really digging in. So it's very tangible. Yeah. So that, because it's very easy to like I see people like, oh, I'm going to set up a studio and I just spent 17 grand and I got a profit and I got this and I got that. I was like, yeah, and you don't know how to work any of it, let alone write a song in the first place, right?
Yeah.
so for me, it's very important that like I try not, because I get overwhelmed by new things and I feel like I'm wasting money, and then I feel like I'm on a treadmill in life.
Yeah.
Like I'm just working really hard, but I'm in one place, right?
Yeah.
So it's for me, it's like when I buy a new pedal, it's like it goes on the R&D table.
There you go.
And I really try to dig into it.
And it's got to like earn its slot in your lineup of tools, right?
Exactly.
And you're gonna spend the time to actually figure it out.
Exactly.
That's smart.
Like
That's smart.
Like Chase Bliss came out with a new pedal this week. This is a Chase Bliss pedal right here. They're like one of my favorite pedal companies. And I was like, should I buy it? I was like, I can afford it, but like I have a talk box one for my lifestyle that I haven't mastered yet. So I need to get through that one first before I even bother.
Smart.
So I'm not going to be like part of the craze rush,
And there's a discipline to that I think is a maturity. The other thing I'm hearing inside of that is like you treat the weekend as some R&D time, which means you're treating the week as work.
100%.
I mean, you're showing up in the studio to put in hours and work. And
100%. Yeah. I mean, I'm in this room at 7 a.m. almost every day. I play like a couple hours of guitar, just like keep my craft. And that, to me, the guitar is like the tree of my trunk, So that like keeps me in shape, keeps me motivated. And then by the late morning, I'm producing until about dinner time. And then I, like a lot of times I don't even produce at night unless it's like a crazy deadline or something.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay. And then the thing is when that's like the no column too. Because I have those no columns, when I'm here and I'm doing this, I'm way more engaged. I'm not like checking Twitter and checking my phone. I'm like, oh, I like spent 4 great hours on this
real
tune
hours,
today. Real hours, like really made progress.
Yeah.
Like my phone is in the studio right now, and it's very rare that it's just here because we're hanging out.
Yeah.
But like Monday through Friday when I'm working, like my phone is on my bedroom.
Those are excellent. I mean, that's an excellent point. I mean, I've heard this advice again and again, but especially for the phone or these notifications, I mean, it takes a lot of effort to get into that focused, creative zone space.
It's fragile.
And it takes almost nothing to pull you out.
Yes.
And the phones are really designed to do that again and again and again.
It's,
So it's, dopamine crack. So well done, man. Yeah. And I think that's great advice on how to be prolific.
Right.
Carve out your time, be protective of that space. I also like that point of warming up. I mean, is some of that physical? Or is that mostly mental? Is it your sort of your musical muscle? You're just getting kind of like getting warmed up and going and just enjoying that process too.
It's all of it,
Nice.
I also like one of my New Year's resolutions is, like in the guitar world, like speed kind of gets a bad name, that kind of whole thing, because it's seen as like overly flashy and void of substance. But like I've been playing for long enough, and clearly I know how to write melodies that like resonate with people. And I kind of had an aha last year because my live sets were ending at higher tempos, and I felt myself running out of gas at the end of sets. And it became really clear to me at what BPMs were my physical limitations of this instrument. Like when I get into this speed, it's later in the set, so I'm a little bit tired, but I also like don't have the chops to pull some things off at these speeds. So my New Year's resolution was to be able to do certain things at certain speeds by the end of the year.
Okay.
So that's part of my morning routine too, is it's like guitar push-ups almost, of like, I want to be able to do certain things by the end of the year.
I love that. That's great. Yeah. Yeah. And I think having goals, setting goals, and like sort of understanding, like I've actually been working on that as well. Like there's kind of a couple ways to get better at stuff, like lean into what you're good at. But I think, and this is for me, it's more like a physical, like I've never been a good runner, never had a lot of endurance, and I've been having a lot of fun working out and exercising, but I will get gassed out.
Right.
And so I've started running, and the improvement that I've seen just in a little bit of time on working on my weakest spot has been really eye-opening. It's like, whoa, okay. So it's like, don't shy away from the things that you're bad at, where you have the ability to learn and get better at things pretty quickly with some focused effort. And then all of a sudden, like that improvement, that weak spot, when you shore that up, all of a sudden the other things can grow again a little bit more because they're sort of limited by that one one piece. So I think that's great advice too. Wow. Nice. I mean, with the family, like you said, you're having your daughter, like it's, you know, she shows up in your videos and you can just see, like, obviously I feel like, you know, speaking as a friend, you're a great dad. I can see how much you and your wife like intentionally raise your child and like put that at the forefront of almost everything you do. And I think the point that you made about that fear, I've heard this a bunch, like having children brings things into focus and it allows you to say like, you know what, that's not important to me. I think when people are in maybe their early periods of things and maybe they don't have children and they've got all this energy, almost endless energy, endless time, it's easy to chase a million things and not be able to really pick one. But having a kid or just finding that internal, like, this is really what I truly want. Like I saw that with Closey. It was like, this is what I want. She was like singularly focused on this one thing. I think there's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of power in being able to say, this is what I want. And then inside of that is a bunch of no's. Right. And for friends or people around that circle, it can be frustrating. It's like, well, they never come out and eat or they don't come to the party. It's like, that doesn't serve me. Like I'm on a mission. Like, what am I really trying to do is this. So And I think there is a cost. There is a challenge to being singularly focused or very focused on something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I have friends that like, they kind of know that unless they invite me to come play with them, I'm probably not coming to the show.
Yeah. That is a hard part with music. I'm not going to go out tonight.
Right.
So I was talking to you the other day and you had mentioned this term, the lo-fi layup.
Lo-fi layup.
Yeah. Just an easy release. And I think there's a lot to talk about there. I mean, personally for me, I love albums and I love larger pieces of work. And especially for the label, Gravitas, we've always wanted to like support that. And I think with the success of Spotify and streaming in general, like we've gone in sort of these full circles of like going back to singles, which if we know our musical history, I mean, that's kind of how things started. You'd have these 45s, you could fit one song on there and it was relatively short. I mean, what's your thoughts on this? Because it's like, are you good with just like a standalone song? Like it seems like or are you hoping that you can tell longer stories?
I will always be a romantic that likes longer stories. Ideally, every song that I make belongs to a bigger family that equates to at least an EP, if not an album. You can't always get that way, especially like a great example of a standalone single is just a collab. You know, I have a collab with East Forest and he does mostly ambient meditation music and I do my thing. And what we did was definitely in between our thing, you know, and we're both okay with it being a standalone. So that's a great example of when things are fine being a standalone single. Another example is if you're trying to label out and it's like, hey, let's just do one. Let's just go on one date.
Yeah. That's a good one.
You know what I mean?
I like that. Yes.
Because then the label isn't emboldened to me or beholden to me in case I'm a nightmare. Yeah. And vice versa.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that works too. The term lo-fi layup, it's like, it's what I came up with recently in terms of like, let's get more points on the board, you know? And it's that whole thing. It's the Mad Lib approach of like, let's just release some raw beats. Let's do like, not everything has to be part of this giant epic rollout, you know? And we can just release some fun things that are sometimes a minute 47 long, you know? And it reminds me of, you know, you're talking about like, we came from the single world, you know, if we go back to like, you know, 45s and then before that wax cylinders and all that, like there's that phrase, I don't know who said it, but history doesn't repeat itself, but it sure does rhyme. And it's the same way, you know, because I hear a lot of musicians griping about single culture.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do your homework, it actually originated, the entire recording industry originated as a single culture. So this isn't a new thing. If we zoom way out, the golden era of albums, whenever that was, it's almost like a Make America Great, I think. It's like, when was that?
I would say the 90s.
Right.
I would say the 90s.
Right. But still, that's still major label. Like,
true.
Like it was still very authoritarian. You know what I mean? It wasn't in the artist.
It had a very dark side.
Very dark side.
And lots of plastic. Lots of plastic. Damage,
yeah. Lots of powder on desks. Lots of huge budgets.
Lots of Porsches,
Lots of Porsches.
Hair gels.
Exactly. And a lot of local bands never breaking because they couldn't.
Yeah.
They couldn't. It was like, that was such a bipolar time. Mm-hmm. You were a local band or you were signed and you were a national act. And there was nothing in between.
Yeah.
Rarely was there, you know? But I just think about like that golden album of the heyday in the long run will be a very narrow time. Mm-hmm. So either we can get romantic about that or we can get real about that, you know, and we can adapt. Mm-hmm. And my friends who talk about blah, blah, blah on streaming, it's like you can still have your music on Spotify. Like nobody's stopping you from pressing CDs. Nobody's stopping you from pressing vinyl. Nobody's stopping you from putting your whole discography on Bandcamp for a certain price.
Sure.
There's so many things that you can still do as an artist to monetize your work that are in your best interest, that you can control, and then you can continually reinvent and change your mind.
Yeah.
And I am a firm believer that this is still the best era ever for the independent musician.
Yeah.
And I hope it will continue to get better.
Sure. I would say, I think the two counterpoints to just like streaming is just to some extent does devalue music, right?
100%.
But the discoverability is amazing. So I think the lesson inside of that is if you're an artist and you have built up some fans or you have music that's good enough to really attract people, it's not necessarily always in your best interest to send your fans to Spotify.
Sure.
Or, you know, and another term would be like the music meat market. If you're sending someone to Spotify and they listen to one single and then they're dumped into the algorithm, that's really not in your best interest. So I'm advocating for artists to sort of take their power back, building landing pages, building musical, you know, digital multimedia world experiences, capture that audience, get them to sign up for an email or try to sell them a piece of vinyl or merch and develop and nurture that relationship and give them a place where they can connect with you and you alone. You know, we wouldn't just if I'm a business, I don't send my customers to Facebook. I want to pull them from Facebook. So if people discover you on these streaming platforms, that's amazing. But as a marketing campaign, like, we can do better. And I think there's a lot of people that have gotten really lazy with the fan links and these other things. It's just like people, if I want to listen to a Cloudchord song and I go on Spotify and listen to it, that's great. But when you're rolling out a new piece of music, is that the best we can do? And I do think Spotify and other platforms know this and they will work on giving us more tools.
Sure.
But it's also headed down this like TikTok direction. Like, just added this on Spotify where you can like flick through your new releases like it's a feed, and that's kind of that's if people find you and they love it, that's great. But it also is like that's intense. That's intense. It's
so
intense.
Disposable.
Yeah, it's very disposable, and it feels like a meat market. And you know, there's a lot of pros and cons to it. So I mean, I'm not advocating that we shouldn't use Spotify, but it's like make these platforms work for us, rather than I feel like a lot of artists are getting in this trap where I need to release a single, and it feels like they're working for the platform.
Yes.
You know, and so I think you've done a good job of understanding that, especially kind of with that methodology of like, I'm not going to overthink it. I'm not going to invest $10,000 into, you know, this marketing and PR and rollout. And that's, I think, maybe where some of the lessons are, where we don't have to go so far. You can release more often, but for certain kinds of music, I think that works well. Certain kinds of genres, it maybe doesn't.
Understandable. Yeah. Well, I think like what you're saying of like how to do better, a couple things. I remember when Skrillex and Diplo did Jack U. And there was this whole thing of whether they were going to be able to have their music on SoundCloud at the time. And Skrillex was a big proponent of, he wanted that album on SoundCloud. People were like, why? Because you're not making money. It was before like Repost bought SoundCloud and they were monetizing it. And he was like, well, he's like, I think of myself as a bread maker and I want my bread to be in every store. And I thought that was really great. And he said, I'm not telling everybody what store to go to. I'm just giving them the options so they can go to any store. And I think that's the beauty of actually when you do a fan link. For those of you at home that don't know what a fan link is, it's basically when you release an album, you have a link that represents the album. And if you do it well, you can do as many stores as you want, and you can do the order that the stores come up. So you can like put your Bandcamp on top. You could put your own website at top. You could put your mailing list sign up at top. So you could prioritize it the way you want to see it. So you could still have Spotify and Apple in there. But like I have some friends or some fans of mine that are like friends that went to college with my mom, and they use Amazon. And to me, that was always the thing of like, got to have the Amazon because I know those guys are going to go to Amazon. You know what I mean? And I have friends that listen to me on Tidal. I don't make that much on Tidal yet, but always got to put the Tidal on there. And I saw somebody on like one of the bigger indies drop a record recently, and it was a full album, and the fan link only had Spotify and Apple. And I'm like, you should know better.
What's the point? Why even do it at that point? I guess my biggest gripe with these fan links is when I go there from a visual perspective, it feels just like a bunch of logos for a bunch of corporations.
Oh, sure.
And for an artist making art and music, I feel like I don't like that impression. I think that I think it should be art first.
So what would you want to see when you go to that link?
I would say make use of the multimedia world that we live in. So I would probably say video tied to music, and there's an experience there. And then there's a follow-up, and then we're asking people to join a community and be a part of and be a fan. So like that idea, and I think you've done this, is 1,000 true fans. Like you can have 1 million streams a month on Spotify, but and this applies to the lo-fi world, that doesn't mean you might sell tickets.
You probably won't.
And you might not and you might not sell any merch. So all of your eggs are in that basket. And if Spotify changes the algorithm, and we've seen this again and again with everything, like what do we do when we outlaw TikTok? There's going to be so many people that are going to be left out in the cold.
Unemployed.
And like, they built their whole career on that one platform. We've seen that again and again. We saw that with MySpace. We saw that with Facebook, which never really wanted to ever give musicians much of a voice or let them upload their music. So, and we saw that with the trouble with SoundCloud. It was like, for a minute, I think we all thought they were just going to go out of business. And I think they maybe have righted the ship, but they forgot who their customers were. They wanted to play in the major streaming world. And it was like, I don't think you guys have I don't think we even need that. And there's plenty of people already doing that. It's like we as paying customers should have been the priority again and again. So, what's a perfect landing page? I think it depends on the project, and I think it depends on the artist and what you're trying to say. But there's like, we miss liner notes. We miss the reading the lyrics or behind the scenes. I think you have a lot of opportunity to take people on a journey and really tell the story. So music, video first, and then give them away, the fan, or maybe the not a fan yet, but hopeful fan, a way to dig in and really understand who you are and connect with you on a deeper level. I think that's what's missing right now. There are tools and people out there doing it, but it's not, it's higher effort. It's way higher effort than a fan link. So, but I think if you're someone that's like, hey, I'm going to do a single a month, then, and people are just like loving that, and you kind of have your audience trained to do that, and that works for you, that's great. So I'm definitely not saying that you shouldn't use fan links. I just think there's more to think about. Especially in the fan relationship and the fan journey. Like, think about your favorite, one of your favorite artists where you didn't know about them, all the way to the journey of where you were willing to open your wallet and buy a ticket or buy a hat or a shirt. Like, there's a lot that happens between that. And I think that's where that fan link journey is missing, because it's like, there's so much more to dig in, and we have so many more tools than we ever had to share these things.
Right.
So that's my like soapbox. What's coming up next?
So what's coming up next?
I know you got an album.
Got an album coming out. It's called BloomBap, 14 songs.
Woo.
Probably the most feature-laden release I've ever had.
Yeah.
I mean, I think out of the 14, there's maybe 3 solo tunes.
Okay.
So lots of guests. Like Emancipator, Big Gigantic, Charisma, Adam Deitch of Lettuce.
That's awesome.
Some Lo-Fi Cats. Chantel's on a track.
Yes.
It kind of goes on and on. Prob Cause, Braxton Cook. So doing that. I'm pretty excited about that.
Do we have a release date? Is that...
It's this Friday. What's the date on that? The 24th or something.
Yeah.
Like that. So
okay.
So it'll be out when this has out.
Yeah. By the time this airs, it'll be out. Well, awesome. Well, congrats, man. I mean, those are some real collabs. I mean, your song with Big Gigantic's already out.
Mm-hmm.
They're, multiple Red Rocks headlining, national touring.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I think that shows the respect that you have in the community for people of what you've been able to create and bring to the table. Obviously, Emancipators, I think that's a match made in heaven right there.
Sure, yeah.
So you've played Lap Steel on his records, and then what's this tune like?
This one is called Junior High Dance, and it's like it's like Dilla beats meets like 50s or 60s dance music. Like almost like what they'd be playing at the dance in the Back to the Future scene.
Okay.
Before he went rock.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Before he jams the Chuck Berry solo.
It's like during Earth Angel when like his hands are becoming invisible and he's disappearing from the
We'll
picture.
definitely roll that clip. That's awesome. Okay. Yeah, so you've got the new record and then any other plans? Anything else?
So then several just releases here and there, like with me as a guitarist on other people's beats. This summer, I'm dropping an EP with a Haitian drummer and singer named Jeff Pierre. And that'll be cool. It's a little more upbeat, a little more up-tempo, but still like very much the Cloudchord vibe. Like he does all the percussion and the vocals on it. And that's fun. And
how did you connect with him?
We connected on Instagram.
Nice.
We were like mutual fans of each other. And he, one day I just posted this video and it was the caption was 4 chords and the truth. And he wrote me back and he's like, yo, this is sick. He's like, will you send me this? And the funny thing is I didn't actually record it into the DAW. It was literally like a phone video, like my amp in the room, right? And so I was like, just rip the video because I don't have anything. So he did, and he made a whole song out of it. He sped it up and changed the key. And it's like one of the best tunes on our record. And the funny thing is the guitar is from that video. I just kept it.
Wow.
Because it had the energy.
There you go.
You know what I mean?
Wow. That's a great story. Wow. Yeah. I mean, the fact that we have something in our pocket that can record that well, that then someone got through a social media network and then was able to rip and build a song out of is amazing.
Right.
I love that. So it's got this like world vibe to it.
Yeah, this world beat vibe. Right. It's like a little more like in the disco or house territory as far as speed goes. Okay. Still very much me. It's like when Bonobo does house.
Yeah.
It's like really beautiful and stuff like that. It's not like I'm making like bass house or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be a really cool project. And let's see what else. Like working on the album with the Biscuits. They're bringing me to Iceland to play a couple shows, so that'll be cool.
Nice.
So, and later this year I'll be rolling out, and hopefully with you we'll see like a whole education side brand.
Yes,
that is very much in the germination stage. Like right now, I have so many ideas.
Yeah,
that really what I need to do is like I need to finish a few projects so that I can really focus on it, and that's something that's exciting.
When you've been a guitar, have you done guitar teacher and have you done Ableton lessons before?
Tons.
Right?
Yeah.
So I think that's really key. Yeah, that's exciting, man. I'm really excited to help you with that. And I guess for anybody listening, like, I've helped a number of music educators. I've helped Il Gates with his platform. I've helped Vespers with Warp Academy before. Obviously, we have Gravitas Create. And then Anthony Thogmartin from Papadozio, we helped him with his brand and some of his, Seed to Stage. So that's something I'm really passionate about. And that kind of blends my two worlds of music and web design and digital media. So yeah, man, that's going to be an awesome project.
Right. And that's actually one of those things, we talk about like you don't get too many fresh starts. In some ways, this is a fresh start. But what I've learned is like with this round and this particular project, like I could totally do the whole thing alone. It would take way longer.
Sure.
But I could. And I could just take 100% of gross and call it a day.
Yeah.
But what I've learned through working with people like yourself and my management is, sometimes it's better to give up a piece of the pie because that pie is way bigger and it's way more vibrant and it has more nutrients and it reaches more people.
Yeah.
And that's the idea that I want to have is like, one of my managers is like convinced that within 2 years, this will like eclipse my entire artist career.
It possibly could.
Because it'd be more wide reaching.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like what a lot of people don't know about me is like, Cloudchord is chill and melodic, but like me as a teacher, like I've taught kids how to play metal tunes. I've taught kids how to make SoundCloud trap.
Yeah.
I've taught people how to do bass drops. I may not be doing it for my own artistic career, but I have the skills now to where I can decode something. So and a lot of one of my visions too was like to combine instrumentalism with production. Like I want to have both of those. I want to have like a Chillhop lo-fi neo soul guitar track that's part of it that you could do that, and then there's also an Ableton production thing, and have it be wide varied.
Yeah, and I think probably as we get into it, you will find even the niche inside of that, right?
Sure.
There's a lot of music education out there, and then I think you'll find something inside of that will really, light you up, and yeah, man, that's exciting. Well, I can't wait to figure out what the brand is going to be, the name of it. So.
Probably Dab Academy.
The Dab Academy. Well, brother, it has been absolutely awesome sitting down with you.
Yeah, man.
You want to take us out with a lick?
Sure, I'll say.
All right. Thank y'all. Catch you on the next one.